It's too late. That's sna.
What is the last letter in sna? Hey, wouldn't you think? Sna?
Well, there's a samach and a nun. Let's give it that. This is 3. Are you going 2?
You don't have to. Do you want to do that for opening, or do you want to do something?
Let's do something else. Let's do something that we know that's from our
OZ. I feel like I haven't done that one. It's actually too low. Would you mind if you take them all off and then see if I can do it up an octave? I like it.
And that's what you studied in college.
What's that?
Music theory.
Kind of.
Be sure to leave a comment. Would you study music theory in college now?
Would I say yes? I liked music theory. I taught music theory in college.
Yeah, you like healed a bunch of people.
I did not heal anyone.
It's got some cool stories. It's pretty cool. Being modest.
Not through music theory. Music theory, I was like so bad at that I got
the voice where you
all
like
the worst students.
taught everybody to sit up straight. You taught me how to use.
Yes, that was voice lessons.
Taught
That
people
was
how to use a
different.
spoon.
That is different. Music theory is like math, which is what I was not very good at. It's all about like ratios. Not my specialty.
Do you know what's also ratios? The Talmud teaches that a dream is 1/60th of prophecy, that honey is 1/60th of manna. Anybody that learned with me this week? Fire is 1/60th of Gehenna.
So what's in the rest of Gehenna? Bad stuff.
And sleep is 1/60th
of death. That's cool.
Also, the whole temple is made in half measures, like all the measurements. I'm not sure. I'm learning this.
Half measures. Why
Yeah,
would
so
that be? That's
because you put it together and it's whole. All of the measurements are half measures. Shalom.
That's so
God
beautiful.
lives with you.
That's cool. I like that. That's some good learning.
But I have to call on the people that are engineers. The engineers
Well,
of the
why
Torah.
would it matter if it's a half measure? I mean, I feel like it matters symbolically.
Instead of it being like 7, it's 7.5, or it's
right, but
6. I have no idea. Then we're getting into math, and that's outside. I can quote Talmud about math, but I can't actually. And so.
Okay, shall we? Welcome, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. We're so glad you could be here with us tonight, and especially on this very, very cold Shabbat. We are glad that you are staying at home nice and warm. So whoever you're with this evening, if you are by yourself, if you are with your family, we hope that you are getting ready to have just a lovely Shabbat experience with us, and we're glad you're here. So we're going to start tonight by singing one of our favorites. The words are very simple. They just say, Ozi v'zimrat ya v'yahi Yeshua. They say, may we sing out to God all of our praises. Ozi v'zimrat ya v'yahi Yeshua. Ozi v'zimrat ya Vayayidi Yeshua, Ozi v'zimrat ya, Vayayidi Yeshua, Ozi v'zimrat ya, Vayayidi Yeshua, Ozi v'zimrat ya, v'yayidi Yeshua, Ozi v'zimrat ya, v'yayidi Yeshua. So this has been the first Shabbat in a while that we are here without our children participating. But tonight we're very honored to be able to do our brachot, our Shabbat blessings in honor of Lucas Podrasik, whose bar mitzvah is tomorrow. Lucas, we are so thrilled for you and for your family, and we cannot wait to be able to celebrate with you. It's nice, even though we're only able to have a few people in the synagogue at a time for these small life cycle events, it is nice to feel like slowly but surely we are being able to figure out how to go out into the world and experience blessing again. So we're going to start, as we always do, with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. Rabbi Michael, will you be our lighter?
I hope I can do it as well as John.
I know, seriously. Well, I can't light matches like at all, so it's much better for you too. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Glass, because no one's going to fight over it.
This is so strange. It's really. And to everyone, wherever you are, feel free to join.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. And we still have a beautiful challah from Mora Diane that, yes, Joan and Molly, we're showing you this is the correct way to eat challah, which is not to dive into the middle. You will get some later. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So often at this time, we take a few moments and we do special family blessings. But we thought actually tonight we would do something a little bit different because tonight is Rosh Chodesh Adar. That means that it is the first of the month of Adar, and Adar is supposed to be our most joyous month. And I think probably Adar is going to hit all of us a little bit hard this year because Adar is when we have Purim, and I think Purim is really the last holiday when we were all together. So I truly hope that this Adar is one that brings in a great deal of joy for us. So we say, Yihi ratzon shetichadesh aleinu chadash Adar. May the month of Adar be a month of blessings, blessings of goodness and blessings of joy, peace and kindness, friendship and love, creativity, strength, serenity, fulfilling work and dignity, satisfaction, success and sustenance, physical health and radiance. May truth and justice guide our acts and compassion temper our lives, that we may blossom as we age and become our sweetest selves. May it be so that Adar turns out to be just a month like that, because I think we are ready for it. So this week we are celebrating Repro Shabbat, which we will talk about a little bit later. But it is a Shabbat where we are thinking about love and we're thinking about relationships. And so it's a nice time to be able to sing Lecha Dodi, which is really, it is a kind of a love song. It's a love song for the bride that we call Shabbat. And we know that Shabbat is not human. We know that Shabbat is not a person in any way, shape, or form, but somehow we still sing this love song to her, welcoming her into our lives every week. So join, if you will. It's on page 20 if you are in your Siddur and following along with Lecha Dodi. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Panei Shabbat, Nekavela, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Panei Shabbat, Nekavela. Lecha Dodi לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, לקראת שבת, לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת, נקבלה, לך דודי, לך דודי, לך דודי. And so we call to each other now with words of blessings. We call each other to worship with the Baruch Hu, which can be found on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Take a moment and close our eyes, shutting out the sounds of the world around us to bring in the words of the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kavod Malchuto, We'll continue tonight with the words of the Ve'ahavta on page 36. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'elem Asher Anochi Mitzavacha Hayom Al Levavecha V'shinantam Levanecha V'dibarta Bam B'shivtecha V'veitecha Uv'lechtecha V'derech U'shachbecha Uv'kumecha U'kshartam Le'ot Al Yadecha V'hayu L'totafot Beinenecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישורך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים Ani Adonai Elohechem. With the words of the Ve'ahavta, God, we remind ourselves that the greatest thing that we can do is to offer our love to you. And in fact, so many of the prayers that we say, that we sing during our tefillah, they are about love. We sing Ahavat Olam, saying, God, you loved us so much that you gave us Torah. We sing Ve'ahavta, saying, God, we love you so much that we will teach our children all the lessons of what it means to be your people. But we know that even being God's people is not always easy, and that we ask God continually to be able to cover us with a shelter of peace and blessing. And we sing those words, Hashkivenu, on page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Spread the shelter of your peace over us, and guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. You know, it's a funny thing. The prayers that we say on Shabbat, they're not the same as the prayers we say the rest of the week. Yes, some of them are equal, but on Shabbat it's supposed to be different, because during the week there's so many things that we are asking God for, so many things that we feel we need so badly. But during the week. But on Shabbat, we're just supposed to really focus on loving God and praising God. But still, we find those moments where we just have to ask God just for a few things that we need so badly. And one of those is always asking God for peace. So on page 60, I would invite you, if you will, to join us in that prayer for peace, a peace that we hope comes to our nation, to our city, to all the world. Shalom Rav, a peace that spreads over all of us. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Ki Ata Melech Adon L'chol Shalom. Ki Ata Melech Adon L'chol Shalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Letov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol etz uv'choshev bishlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim La'olam. So in just a moment, we are going to sing the Misha Berach, our prayer for peace. And I'm smiling. I was going to show you something, but I realized I think I threw it out already, but it still is a beautiful thing. I'm smiling because we've had this same page with Misha Berach on it since March. And each week we would write down names of people who needed prayers. And the best weeks were when we could scratch someone off because they didn't need our prayers anymore. And the worst were the weeks when we just scratched someone off because they didn't need our prayers anymore. But this week the page was filled, but so many of them were scratches off because they were people who have gotten well. And so we have a new list this week, and it's just the best thing in the world to be able to look at this list and to know that there are people who are watching at home who last week was terrible, and this week we are hopeful and is maybe a little bit better. So for all of those who tune in each week to sing these healing prayers with us, I hope that you know that sometimes they do work. We pray and we wish they would work every time, but every once in a while, it does make a difference. So if there is someone that you are praying for tonight, someone who needs healing prayers, I hope that you will find the way to pray for them and say their names. Tonight, we are thinking of Jerry Krause and Arlene Alper. We're thinking of Lisi Weinstein, and we're thinking of Danny, and we're thinking of all of those who are just on the verge of health now. We are so grateful for your wellness and for your shleimus, and we pray that everyone is able to find that same sort of holing and healness, that each of us will be able to come back here in one place, and we're going to have a blank page. Mi sheberach avoteinu mekor bracha le'imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor bracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. So remember back in the day when we used to do this face-to-face, that often when we would begin services, I would begin by sort of acknowledging the different people in the room and the different reasons people come here for Shabbats. And I never intended it to be something that I said every week. In fact, sometimes there were weeks where I was like, Amy, don't say that in the beginning of the service. But what would happen is I would come and I would look out at the room and just think how amazing it is that of all the people coming together on Friday night for worship, that we had the bar mitzvah families sitting right next to the mourners, sitting right next to the people who I knew just wanted to hear what the Torah portion was, and people who just wanted to sing next to the wedding couple, next to the people who had someone sick. And I thought it was so amazing to think that somehow we could all be able to share this space and come together for this Jewish experience. And I would often say that I hope that whatever it is you came here for tonight, that you find what it is you're looking for. And I've thought of that in particular tonight, because tonight is one of those nights where, even though, yes, our room is empty, there's actually still quite a lot going on. Of course, we have Lucas's bar mitzvah tomorrow, but it is also, as I mentioned earlier, it is Rosh Chodesh Adar, the new month of Adar. It is also a special Shabbat called Shabbat Shekalim, which is one that isn't really practiced anymore, but it comes from a tradition where everyone had to give a half shekel to the building of the Mishkan. We'll talk about that more next week. But at Temple Israel and in actually many synagogues around the country, we are partnering with NCJW in something called Repro Shabbat. I did not come up with that name. It's not a very good name, but the idea is that this is a Shabbat where we are focusing on the topic of reproductive health. And it's important to do this, even if that is not necessarily the topic that is closest to your heart, because I think sometimes we think about our Jewish faith and we think about the holidays and we think about the traditions, but we forget that what really matters about Judaism are its core values. It's the values and what they teach us about how we should live our lives. And these are values that were just as meaningful 2,000 years ago as they are today. And so that's why we have a topic like this that may seem very modern, but in fact is not. Now, I actually thought that the reason they chose this as Repro Shabbat was because of Valentine's Day, which I thought was actually kind of funny, but that's not why. The reason that they chose this Shabbat is in this week's Torah portion, we are given many of the laws of Judaism, and one of them is probably one you've heard of before. It presents the idea of justice that's meted out, and an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, and a life for a life. And shortly after teaching that line, they start giving scenarios, and they share an example where they say, well, if there's a pregnant woman and she is pushed and she loses the pregnancy, it tells you what the punishment is, and the punishment is not a life for a life. And so therefore, from this one teaching, we understand that in Judaism, that a baby is not a baby until it is born, that a fetus does not count in Jewish tradition as being an actual life. And that one line in and of itself is actually enough to base an entire tradition on. But I think it's probably not enough for us. And not just about the issue of reproductive health, but really any time that we are trying to make some sort of Jewish decision using our core values, we need more than just a law and just an example. So what I want to share with you tonight are two other values that are often raised with the question of reproductive health, but that I think really impact all of our lives, certainly beyond this one issue. One of these is the idea of pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh means the saving of a life. And we are taught that if you save a life, that it is as if you save the whole world. But when we talk about pikuach nefesh, and we connect it to this idea and to the idea that is in the Torah portion, we're not talking, of course, about the fetus, which we've just learned is not considered a life. No, we're talking about the parents. We're talking about what it would mean to save someone's life by saying that they did not have to have a baby, or that they did not have to be a parent. And I bring that up not just because we know of the health risks, which of course are far fewer now than they were when the Torah was written, but something very powerful that Jewish tradition does is it builds on this idea and says it's not just about physical health that can be at risk, it is about mental health. That we have, even more than 1,000 years ago, people understanding that the very act, not just of being pregnant, but of being a parent, can be difficult for one's mental health. That sometimes just trying to raise children can be something that can wear on us. And I'm sharing this with you tonight because I know that here we are almost a year into the pandemic. And while in some ways things are getting better for many of us and we are seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, I also have heard from so many of you this week and these past weeks that you feel as if you're hitting a wall. And I'm hearing this in particular from parents, from people who have kids who are at home. And so I say to you to remember that Jewish tradition says we know that this is hard, and we know that sometimes even our mental health can be put at risk. And Judaism says you need to take care of yourself. That in raising your children, in caring for the people around you, you also need to make sure that you are always caring for your own life as well. That pikuach nefesh, saving your life, means saving your soul. It means saving your sanity. It means saving your stability. And so it is incumbent upon you to still follow those Jewish laws and do everything you can to be able, pikuach nefesh, to save your own life and to save the life of those around you. Even if it seems like this is an easy task, we know that sometimes it's hard. There's one other value that is often associated with reproductive health, reproductive justice. And this one you probably have not heard of before. Pikuach nefesh is maybe a more common term, but this one is called kavod habriot. Kavod, which means respect, and habriot, which really means all creation. But when we talk about this as one term, it means upholding human dignity. That this is something that we must do at all times, is uphold human dignity. And in fact, I always think of this idea actually connected with reproductive health, because I remember a time that was more than 10 years ago, it was maybe 12 years ago, when Rabbi Michael and I first moved to St. Louis. And it was a time where there was really one abortion clinic, actually, that if you were in Missouri, that you could go to. And we were told that people were being harassed by protesters, and they were having religious messages on the signs and the things they were saying to people who were going in there. So Rabbi Michael and I and another one of our colleagues, we went there to be counter-protesters. Now, we knew that there was nothing we could do to actually protect these women. We knew that we were not there for anything but moral support, but what we were really doing was we were helping uphold their dignity. And the idea of upholding someone's dignity is not necessarily an easy thing. It's hard to know even what that dignity is, but I find that it's something that I'm seeing in so many of you. That those of you who are caring for loved ones, whether you're able to be in their presence or not, you are finding ways to be able to uphold their dignity even when it is so hard, and trying to make choices that you know they would agree with. And for some of us, to be able to uphold the dignity of others is maybe not so easy now that our tempers are flaring and our nerves are frayed. But this is the time, before you send that email, before you make that call, to think, am I able to uphold the dignity of the people on the receiving end, on the other line of that call? What are the ways that I can show kavod habriot, to uphold the dignity of others in everything that I do? You know, when we talked about this Shabbat, it is supposed to be called Repro Shabbat, but I thought that was a terrible name. And so instead, I said that we should call it Sacred Choices. And in fact, it is about sacred choices. I'm not just talking about sacred choices that have to do with reproductive health, but the idea that everything we do, when we are doing it in line with our Jewish core values, that those are sacred choices. So may we find every day that we have the opportunity to make these sacred choices, the big moments in our lives and the small ones. And in this way, we will be able to find a way that we are truly living in a Jewish and meaningful way each and every day. So at this time, we're going to turn to our Mourner's Kaddish, and we are going to think of those who have been taken from us in seasons past, of those who have been taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Marilyn Filderman, Barbara Simon, Roberta Zanes-Wolfman, Judy Zimmerman. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial: Josephine Schwartz-Arkey, Fanny Sanders Berger, Henry Blatt, Bernard Bloom, Charlotte Brandt, Shirley R. Broderson, Anna Lee Brown, Julia Singer Bree, Geraldine Karp, Dr. Norman Ward Klein, Moses M. Cohn, Anna Davis, Norman S. Dirtke, Joseph B. Diamond, Jules Dubinsky, Mary Fatum Ephron, Saul H. Engel, Edith Kriegshaber Felsenthal, Arthur A. Fischel, Myron N. Fisher, Samuel A. Fox, Rose K. Fry, Irene Gall, Gus Gillerman, Robert Goldenhirsch, Lester J. Handelman, Martin Handler, Anita Barbara Hirsch, Pauline Manlin Hellman, Otto Hirsch, Emma Hesse Isselbacher, Leopold Isselbacher, Mendel Jacobson, Jason Cowan, Adolphus Klauber, Joseph Leonard Kohner, Edith Levi, David Ludwig, Herbert Marples, Emil Mayer, Gertrude N. Mendelson, Charles Chick Meyerson, Fred Michelson, Regina Michelson, Janet Fuller Miller, Magnus F. Polson, Milton Rimmel, Dorothy Ring, Jay Ring, Sidney Ring, Arthur Rosenfeld, Morris Rufa, Vida Sachs, Bess Brand Schneider, Jeanette P. Schnormacher, Joseph H. Silversmith, Dorothy Lowenberg Stein, Michael Victor II, Fanny Waldman, Florine Weiss, Ashel Lewis Wolfman. So with those names and the names we keep in our hearts, we join in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach chirte v'yamlich malchute, b'chayachon uvyomechon, uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitala shemei dekudisha barichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nachmata, de'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'bramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort all who are bereaved. Amen. Oseh shalom b'bramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen.
Really? This week we were studying together in a class here at TI, not literally here, but in the virtual TI, and we really were talking in depth about the idea of prophecy and the idea of what it means to receive and to transmit prophetically, and how that came to a time that the rabbis declared that it had ended. But we also spoke about the fact that prophecy is basically interfacing with God. And as simple as the definition as that is, it's a very complicated thing. And when Rabbi Amy sometimes sit and we think about the lyrics of songs that we've grown up with, it's very unusual to us that these words that were maybe poetic or had meaning perhaps in another time would not have any relevance or meaning in our time. They wouldn't be in any way prophetic, and in many ways more possibly than we would have liked they have been. So with that.
Now, whether or not Cat Stevens would have wanted us singing his words as prophecy in synagogue.
You'll have to get used to it, because it's about love.
Well, I think it's fine building jumbo planes, taking a ride on a cosmic train, switch on summer from a slot machine. Yes, get what you want if you want, 'cause you can get anything. just go on, and it seems you can't get off. I know we've come a long way, changing day to day. Tell me, where do the children play? When you crack the sky, scrapers fill the air. Will you keep on building higher till there's no more room up there? Will you make us laugh? Will you make us cry? Will you tell us when to live? Will you tell us when to die? I know we've come a long way, changing day to day. Tell me, where do the children play? Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom. Don't forget to go outside and play. It's Shabbat. It's cold. It's still Shabbat.